we have a question about MVP, about minimum viable product. We hear this term all the time, and but I really wanted to, hear your perspective on it today, because we do have a question here that is, what is MVP, John, and why is it important to take this approach with building out your ideas?
Yeah, cool. So MVP is such a great concept, and I wish I'd known about it 15 years ago when I started building the original pet rescue website. I would have done it a lot differently. But I recently, if you're a American sports fan, MVP can have a bit of a different meaning. I don't know which American sport. I'm not a sports guy, but recently I posted a photo of something on Instagram and mentioned MVP. And one of the guys that followed me wrote back and said, "You're the real MVP, JB." And I'm like, I don't really understand. I'm the real minimum viable product. But in sports terms, it can stand for most valuable player or most valued player. Not in this context. So MVP, basically, very simply, the concept is, if you're building something, I think the first thing is understanding that whatever you think your customer wants, you're probably wrong. You might be generally right, but specifically, you're probably wrong. You might have a really good idea and think, yeah, this is great. I'm going to build out this great big platform with all this functionality and all these bells and whistles, and then release it. And there's a couple of problems with that. One is, if you start with the goal of producing this, 100% complete bells and whistles version, odds are you won't finish it. It's going to be expensive to build. It's going to take a lot of time to build. You're either just not going to finish it, you run out of steam and it doesn't get done, or somebody else comes along and releases something similar in the meanwhile, and you miss out. But the other thing is, you end up building functionality, or you build something that's not quite what your customers want. And then you invested a whole bunch of time and money building, this 100% thing, where you then have to pare it back to 40% and then build it back out again to what your customers have told you they actually want. So MVP is the concept of building the most basic functioning version of whatever it is that you want to build. So I'm building something at the moment in my spare time. It's just a hobby thing that I'm doing, kind of for fun, to build something, and also because it's something I would use. And I think building something that you would find useful is a really great way to get out there and build things, and maybe build something that other people would like as well. And I'm so cognizant that I don't want to build in any functionality that's superfluous or any bells and whistles. I just want the bare basics. And the minute that I release that bare basics platform, it has to work. It has to do that basic functionality. But as long as it does that, immediately what's going to happen is you'll get feedback saying, this is great, but this part of it's crap. I don't like that. Or it'd be really, really great if on this screen there was a button that did this. That'd give me a lot of value. And you go, wow, I never thought of that. Well, that's kind of similar to what I was thinking, but it's slightly different trajectory. And if I'd followed that path, it would have ended up in a very different space. So getting that user feedback and incorporating that into what you're building allows you to end up with, a much more refined version that's much closer to what your customers actually want, and it gives you a much greater chance of being successful. So the MVP concept is, start small, start with the most basic, simple version that does what it says on the box, and then use the feedback that you get, and use, the term "eat your own dog food," which is funny for me as a pet rescue owner, but use it yourself. If you don't use it yourself, then you're never going to experience the pain points that your customers are experiencing, and realize that you need to resolve those things. So get it out there as early as you can. Release early, release often is a catchphrase associated with MVP, and I love that. Just get it out there as much as you can, iterate as much as you can, and build something that's, what your customers actually want.